Yes, people, welcome back to Shameless Football. I'm Sean Butler, joined, of course, with co-host Henry Wright from Henry Wright TV. How are you, Henry?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Good week of Premier League football. It's back. No more international break, and I'm looking forward to seeing how many predictions we got right.
100%, guys. Before we get going, as always, you know what you've got to do to help the channel grow. You've got to smash the like button on the video for us. You've got to hit the subscribe button to Shameless Football. And also, whilst you're at it, if you haven't subscribed to either Henry Wright TV or the Spurs Talk Show, then both of those channel links are in the description below. As you know, this is a predictions roundup. Last Friday, every Friday when there's a Premier League round of fixtures, we are going to get together and play the game that I'm going to bring up on the screen right now. The rules are very simple. We have to make a prediction of the overall scoreline and a nominated goal scorer for each fixture. And then on top of that, we also have a team to nominate that can't lose. The forfeit for the first team to lose in the last man standing round, i.e. picks a team that does lose on the week and the other person picks a team that manages to draw or win, that forfeit's going to be painful and embarrassing and humiliating, and I hope it's not me. I really do. For the point system, this is an accumulating system where we're going to figure it out as we go along. But ultimately, you get 3 points if you name the score and it's absolutely bang on, and an additional point every time your goal scorer succeeds, or every time your goal scorer scores a goal. If you just get the right result but the wrong scoreline, then you get 1 point, and you still get the points for every time your goal scorer scores. And if you get everything wrong, then you get nil points. We're going to spend a couple of seconds talking about each game as we've seen it. So Wolves versus Liverpool was the first game, Henry. The actual score ended up being 3-1 to Liverpool. I went with 2-0 and Mo Salah to score. Mo Salah didn't score. I think he got all 3 assists from memory.
He got a hat-trick of assists, didn't he? I was very close. I went 3-0. I thought they'd keep a clean sheet. But do you know what I'll say just quickly on Liverpool? Jurgen Klopp has bought an entire new midfield. Right, he's brought in Gravenberch, Endo, and McAllister. Yeah. And they already look like they're back in, I personally think they're going to be the closest to Man City this season. But with 3 signings, they look a completely different outlet. They've scored, I think Liverpool, Tottenham, City, and Brighton have scored the most goals in the league. We're above them only on goal difference. They've got winnable games coming up as well. I think they've got West Ham, and I think they've got, after that, they've got Luton. I think they'll be the closest to City this year, I'll be honest. It's a good result for them. 1-0 down, great show of character. They come back out second half, and it's 3 points on the board. That's what it matters, isn't it?
It is all that matters at the end of the day. And I honestly, when I watched the game before the Tottenham game, I was at the stadium early, and I was surprised that they didn't really get out of first gear for the first half. If I'm honest, Wolves obviously took the lead and to come back and so sort of dominantly get past Wolves, who are a very tricky team at home on their day. So, yeah, very impressive with them. And obviously it's a fixture that we're looking forward to as Tottenham fans straight after the North London derby, which is coming up next. So straight off the bat, 1 point each, level pegging going into the second fixture, which was Aston Villa versus Crystal Palace. The actual result on that game was 3-1 to Villa, with Duran, Douglas Luiz and Bailey scoring all 3 goals very late. Crystal Palace were 1-0 up after Edouard got the opener on the 47th minute. But Villa came back in the 87th minute with Duran, and then 2 injury time goals in the 98th minute, a penalty for Douglas Luiz, and then the 101st minute, Leon Bailey. Sounds a bit reminiscent of Tottenham's fixture a little bit, to sort of secure all 3 points. Listen, I absolutely nailed it. 3-1. I didn't get the goal scorer. I thought Ollie Watkins would contribute, but he didn't. But the other 3 players did. And I take.
You know what's annoying about this as well? Diari scored a goal, but it was cancelled by VAR. He scored a goal, but do you know what? To be 1-0 down, if I said to you in the 87th minute, Villa are going to score 3 goals here, you'd be like, no chance. And Unai Emery's kind of installed this belief into them, similar to Postecoglou. You just keep fighting to the end. And then they scored an equaliser. Then they got a penalty, and then Bailey scored in the, was it 98th minute or something ridiculous like that?
Yeah.
I think Villa are going to have a good season. I think they've got Next in the Premier League, Villa have got Chelsea, which is a massive, massive game, and I think they'll go to the Bridge and win that. I think they will win that. But yeah, Villa have had a good start. They've played some tough games. They've played Newcastle, Liverpool, Palace, and I think they've played Everton, who they disintegrated. And yeah, I know they've lost a couple of games, but they have started well. I think they're 7th or 6th in the league. And yeah, same again, 3 points on the board. It's all that matters. But to score 3 goals in the last 10 minutes of any game, that's just straight away. That's a big character stance right there. Unai Emery's kind of installed into that team.
Yeah, very impressive. A team that a lot of people had for, to compete with Tottenham this year, to compete with the likes of Brighton, Newcastle, that kind of, somewhere between 6th and 9th kind of ilk. I was pretty unimpressed with Villa at the start against Newcastle. I thought they were absolutely embarrassed, and I thought that their new backline with Pau Torres and the like, I thought they just didn't gel. But since then, everything seems to be starting to click for them. Have you sort of adjusted your thoughts? Where did you finish? Where did you have them finishing this year? Was it about 8th or something? 7th
or 8th. I think they will do well in the Conference League. I think at the moment they're probably favourites to win it. I think they are actually outright favourites. I think they'll win that and they'll focus on that. And I think they'll go and get a couple more buys in January as well, just to kind of fill out their squad more. But they've actually got a good 11. I just don't. It's similar to us, good 11, but I don't think their backups when they come in are as anywhere near the level.
Yeah, I agree. There's not a lot to choose between a few of the sides right now that are sort of fighting around, and we'll talk about one of them in just a second. But before we get to them, we got Fulham versus Luton, 2 teams that I actually had in my bottom 3 this year. The Fulham actually have started the season.
Fulham to go down.
I had Fulham to be part of those 4 or 5 teams. I had Wolves, Fulham, and then the 3 relegated teams. Oh, sorry, the 3 promoted teams. So I had those 5 as pick 3 from it, with the likelihood being that Luton and Sheffield United would struggle. And now I couldn't pick between Burnley, Wolves, and Fulham for the next. But I've actually kind of adjusted that a little bit because I think Sheffield United will be okay. I think they look pretty. They've had some really tough opening games. We'll talk about them in a minute. But I do think that they've got enough about them. At least they're preparing themselves for what's coming. And I don't think you can make the same argument necessarily yet for teams like Burnley. But
Fulham have had a tough start though, haven't they? They've got a draw at Arsenal. They played us in the cup. They've played Manchester City. They've played Luton. They've played Brentford.
Yep.
And to come out with 2 wins and a draw or whatever they've got, I think they've done. And bearing in mind they've lost Mitrovic, who's gone to Al Hilal, and I think he's the top goal scorer in the Saudi league. To lose their main man, and to still put in good performances, to go 2-1 down at the Emirates with 10 men and then get a last-minute equaliser. I really rate Silva. I think he's done a fantastic job, and I think they'll have a good team. I think they'll be, 11th, 10th, maybe 9th if they get a few bodies in January. But 1-0 Luton, probably the most boring match of the weekend. I'll
be honest. I haven't actually seen even the highlights of it. That's how uninteresting it looked to me. But so I can't really comment on it. But yeah, I think you're right with regards to Marco Silva. I think he's managed to keep hold of Palhinha. When I put Fulham in my bottom 3, I was expecting Palhinha to go. I also thought Tosin was out of the door as well. But it's interesting, mate, because it's not the only time this season that you've seen. I'm not sure if you would call Mitrovic their best player or their most important player, maybe Palhinha or whatever. Maybe there's an argument for that. But of course, they also lost Manor Solomon as well to Tottenham. So I just think that there's a few teams that seem to have lost their talisman or lost a monster player for them, and yet have seemed to have started the season on a surprise to the upside. I think you'd include West Ham in there because they rebalanced.
Brentford lost Ivan Toney.
Yep. And of course, Tottenham as well, losing Harry Kane, right? So losing the best player doesn't always mean... Sorry, mate, go on.
I was going to say Brentford, considering they've lost Ivan Toney, they're not... I believe Brentford are the only team in the Premier League that don't have a youth set up, do they? They don't have an under-23s or an under-18s. They just have an academy and the Premier League.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy. Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, not being able to talk too much about the game, but essentially the scoreline was 1-0 to Fulham. We both went for 2-0. with Pereira to score. He didn't, so we both get a point on that result. And we'll move on to the big one of the weekend. I don't know if we call it a surprise or not, but we went Man United Brighton. I went for Brighton to take the points. Almost got the result right. I just had Man United to be a little bit less wasteful and selfish in certain areas than they were. And
they were awful, mate. They were absolutely awful. I think Max Brannan's going to get the sack. Eric, 10 games. Man, honestly, they were absolutely awful. I think it's their worst start to a Premier League season in, I think, 25 years or something like that. Pascal Gross's goal, De Zerbi went to Old Trafford. They had 34 passes in the build-up to Pascal Gross's goal. Man United are jogging, walking. Bruno Fernandes. If your main men in your team are Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford, who are purple patch players, you are in big, big trouble. If you look at us, we've got our main players have been Bissouma and Maddison, who are fairly consistent throughout Premier League seasons.
Yeah.
They're in turmoil, mate. And when Harry Kane and Bayern Munich turn up at Old Trafford,
yeah, it's going to be dangerous.
That's going to be, sorry, I think they've actually got them at home. So Man United travel away. I'll be honest. Eric 10 games, mate. I'll be amazed if he makes Christmas.
What do you put it down? Do you put it down to Ten Hag's decisions, especially at the start of the season, to try and squeeze, as I've said before, Swedish nightclub, too many 10s into the team, and just trying to fit square pegs into round holes, sort of accusation you could have thrown at a lot of managers, or Tottenham, or I think we were doing it last year, where managers come in and they want the squad to fit the system rather than the system to fit the squad.
Too many problems, mate. He hasn't had it easy, is he? He's had the Maguire situation when he first joined. He's had Ronaldo situation. He's had the Mason Greenwood situation. Marcus Rashford turned up into New York and missed 2 games or whatever it was. Then the Mason Greenwood stuff. Then Anthony.
And Jadon Sancho. So it's been a constant barrage of BS to deal with. But, when it comes down to the football pitch, their play style is awful. This is Casemiro doesn't look half the player he did last year.
No, he doesn't look nowhere near good. Lautaro Martinez looks awful. Onana's has he kept 1 clean sheet?
Yeah.
In 5 games for a big money move on a goalkeeper. Mason Mount looks awful. Amrabat, I don't think has played a game as of yet. I think he's still injured. I'll be honest, mate. I'll be amazed if he makes Christmas.
And unless there is some sort of significant change, new manager bounce, if any of that stuff happens, if everything stays the same within the squad at least until January, and who's picking the team, where do you see Manchester United at this stage at and around the Christmas period, the halfway point? Are there 10 teams better than them in the Premier League right now?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of better teams than them. I think Villa, Brighton, Tottenham, City, Arsenal, Liverpool, West Ham,
Newcastle.
Just off the top of my head, Newcastle are all better than them. They've got they've got a striker who's needs to be slowly embedded into the team in Rasmus Højlund, whose hold-up play is very good. He's very strong on the ball. He's a good finisher. But the whole game, all they were doing was giving it to Rashford. And that's why, he's got what he's got, which is, for me, I don't know who's your clown of the week, but he's my clown of the week, mate. Every single attack they went to Rashford. It was like there was no other player on the pitch. I think he had 6 shots in the throughout the game. Just pass it to someone else. The first opportunity he had, he's running, he's cut back. I'm like, pass it. He doesn't, holds onto it, and gets his shot away. And it's like they're trying to get Rashford to bail him out. They're trying to. It's like what we have to do a lot of the time, where we're trying to give the ball to Kane to bail us out.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to give it to other players.
Well, that's what I mean, right? So, if you actually, when you look at these teams that are surprising to the upside, they've had to adapt to life without their talisman. And they're figuring it out, to most people's surprise, that actually there are better players around, and sometimes the team is capable of much more. But everyone becomes dependent, everyone becomes reliant on the guy who's been the guy. But if that guy is not on point, on form, then the team struggles. And like you say, Rashford and Fernandes, those sorts of players, typically do not put together 30-game streaks of high performance. They put together, months here, few weeks there. Purple patches, right? And Manchester United need to, I guess, become more of an ecosystem and become less dependent on one or two, and try and recognise the synergies that do exist. They have got a good squad. You look through the squad and you think that there's talent there. They're capable of so much more than they put on. So it's interesting though, and as a non-Man United fan, it's lovely to see, because I think that team and the team we're going to talk about, I think they're coming up in 1 or 2 games time. Another team that's really struggling under this new model that they're trying to put together in Chelsea, and one man's struggles equals another man's opportunity. So I think we've got, Tottenham fans can look and kind of see a bit more kind of optimism with what's going on around us, as well as what's happening at the club. Spurs, talking about Spurs, mate, we got them to talk about now. I think we both got the predictions wildly wrong in terms of how dominant we thought it was going to be in a scoreline. I went for 5-0. You went for 4-0. Neither of our neither of our goal scorers scored. So we both take the 1 point each. Mate, I've been taking pelters on my thoughts on this game because it's a fantastic result. Don't get me wrong. In the last 10 minutes were absolutely enthralling and exhilarating. I was at the game. But I'll be honest, I didn't think that Tottenham looked... We had a lot of possession. The stats looked great. On paper, everything looked like it was an absolute sort of devastatingly dominant performance in everything but the final act it was. But that, I think, to me, what I worry about Tottenham is that we're going to face teams that are bottom half of the table that are going to come to the Tottenham Stadium and do that kind of low block 10 more times. That's going to happen this season, at least 10 more times. And I don't think that we found the way to break them down quickly enough. I think we ended up taking a lot of pot shots from distance. I think it was all a little bit of it looked a little bit, I'll just have a crack, just take pot shots and see what happens, and try and get lucky from it. I wasn't that impressed. I was impressed with the resilience, the mentality, the comeback spirit, all that stuff, and of course, I loved the momentum and all those things. But I think a lot of Tottenham fans are guilty again of looking at the last 8 minutes of that game and thinking it measured the previous 90. And I don't think it did. What were your thoughts on the game?
I thought Sheffield United did exactly what they were going to do: sit back, low block, park the bus, get us on the counter. They took their goal really well. It was a really good finish. Where credit's due. They frustrated us and made it hard for us. That's what Arsenal and City face every single week.
Yeah.
But the difference is, how do City and Arsenal keep picking the lock, keep doing it? Man City faced a West Ham team that beat Brighton 3-1 in their backyard, 1-0 down at half time, and come out and score 4 goals. Or 3 goals, whatever it was. With us, I don't know in certain games if we have enough firepower to pick the lock. We've got Maddison who can create a lot of chances, but it is worrying. I do agree. If on another day, I guess you could say we might have had a penalty or whatnot from Maddison, which that refereeing game was the worst.
It was a shambles, mate. Peter Stanks. He absolutely stank the place out. His refereeing was shocking. Giving out yellow cards like they were nothing.
Absolutely awful. In terms of us, character, determination, spirit at the end, I think it's a bit over the top. Sonny pushing Richarlison, it is a little bit over the top. Fair enough, if he scored that goal in the FA Cup final, I'd be over the moon with that. But I think it was a little bit too much. But I guess it's 3 points. It's our best start to the season in 56 years.
Yeah,
and we go in next week against that lot where we haven't done anything at their ground in 12 years. And they've got a game midweek as well. I'm not going to say anything shameless yet. I'm going to wait till Friday when we do our predictions because they could get... I think they picked Martinelli picked up an injury, but the difference is they can just slot Trossard straight in. And they did slot Trossard straight in and he scored their goal. But with us, character, determination, but you're right. Whether you got pelters or not, you are right. It is a little bit worrying, to score 5 goals in Burnley's backyard and then struggle to break Sheffield United down the following week.
Breaking down the low block to me is going to be the key to where Tottenham finish this season. We'll be able to pick up points, draws here, cheeky wins there against, at home or maybe occasionally away against teams that want to play against us. But the vast majority of the bottom half of the team, bottom half of the table, when they come to Tottenham, they're going to do what Sheffield United did, and Sheffield United did everything they possibly could and utilised what's in their locker. And that's one of the reasons why I personally think they'll survive this year, is because I think that they're smart. I think that their manager is smart enough to know what he's working with, know what he's up against. And, yesterday it didn't work out for them. They were, I think you could say, unfortunate for how it finished if you're coming at it from a Sheffield United perspective. I don't think they deserve the win. I think that a draw wouldn't have been an unfair result for them. And the thing I worry about is, like I say, if Tottenham score early, if one of those pot shots is in the corner rather than hammered down into the throat of Foderingham, then I think that, maybe you go on and get like 4 or 5. But the fact that if he gets to 0-0 at half time, then I think that's when the sort of pressure and the panic starts to set in. What I would say is that the actual outcome and the way it transpired, going 1-0 down late in the game, fighting back, using every single second available in the referee's, watch or whistle to go and get the win. I think that is the perfect outcome leading into the North London derby, because it's incredibly likely, incredibly plausible that we will be 1-0 down with 80 minutes gone, and to never say die and to keep going and to try and find a way to carve something out and to get your rewards for it. Their tails are going to be high and their chest will be pumped. And I think that, especially with Richarlison being responsible, you need a guy like that to come off the bench with 10 minutes to go, bring on Perisic as well. That sort of dynamic duo. He can whip the balls in, and you've got Perisic up against Gabriel or Saliba. Maybe there's a chance of getting a headed goal from a corner, similar to what happened yesterday. So I think the outcome is perfect for Tottenham going into such a big game, but I still think there's lots of question marks around why we couldn't break them down sooner.
I agree, mate. It's a big character boost, isn't it, going to that North London derby? But there's a few worrying signs there.
Yeah,
for me.
All right. Next one, interesting game down at the West Ham Stadium, the Olympic Stadium. Haaland he got one of the goals. West Ham won 3-1. So you absolutely nailed this one. Congratulations on your 4 points, maximum points.
I got it only 4 points of the week. It was.
That was the highest points of the week. Yeah, but there's no prize for that, so don't worry about it, mate.
Put that in your trophy cabinet.
You'll never sing that.
Yeah.
Look, again, I'll let you crack on with this one. What was your sort of diagnosis of this game?
Well, West Ham actually started reasonably well. They went 1-0 up. Great goal, by the way, from James Ward-Prowse. And then Man City at half time, Pep rips into them, absolutely destroys them, and say, we've got to sort this out. Jeremy Doku, by the way, serious player. Yeah. I think if he's fit and firing, in a lot of games we're going to see Grealish on the bench, which is not a problem, because if Doku's not performing, you can bring Grealish on. But he come on, they second half they come out. He scored. Haaland scored. Bernardo Silva scored. They played really well. Great. It's Man City. It's good to see, obviously, Pep back from his back operation. They're the team to beat. I'll be amazed if they lose the game before Christmas. Yeah. The only game you could say is a bit edgy for them is when they play Arsenal. I don't think we play them to the new year. So, but Man City are just, they're a different kettle of fish, different breed. Never say die. They've got this belief. They know how good they are. They've got this confidence. They've got this belief that we are going to win every single game. And right now, they're the only team with a 100% record. They're the team to beat. They've scored 14 goals, conceded 3. They've already got a plus 11 goal difference already.
Yeah.
Which is just absolutely insane. They're nearly averaging 3 goals a game. Conceding only 3, which was against West Ham, Sheffield United, and Fulham.
Fulham, yeah.
They've started extremely well. They've won 5 out of 5. I think up next they've got. They've got
an interesting set. They've got a fairly stable September, but October looks tough. So September they got the Champions League game on Wednesday against Crvena Zvezda. Then they got Nottingham Forest at home in the league, which should be fine. They got Newcastle away in the Carabao Cup, which will be a good game, interesting game. Then they got Wolves away, but then October. Look at this for an October. It's juicy. Leipzig away in the Champions League, Arsenal away in the league, Brighton at home in the league, Young Boys of Bern, of Switzerland, whatever it is, away, and then Manchester United away. So their October is going to be. You can make the argument.
I think they'll win every single game.
You think they'll win every one of those?
I mean, last year they beat Leipzig 7-0 at home, right? And bearing in mind it's a Leipzig now that don't have Nkunku and Vardiel.
That's true. Yeah.
Arsenal, I think they beat them there. They beat them every single game. I think they've lost one in the last 17 against Arsenal, which was the Charity Shield. Brighton, they'll beat because I just think they're the better team. Young boys, they could probably make 5 or 6 changes, beat Young boys, then put them changes back into the team and beat United. And then they've got November is Bournemouth, Young boys, Chelsea. Their hardest game for me will be on November the 25th, which will be Liverpool. But I'll be honest, mate. You know, that Alvarez for Man City is absolutely a Rolls Royce of a player.
Yeah.
He is mustard.
How much they paid for him? Know? Chump change, wasn't it?
Yeah, 20 million.
Yeah. Unbelievable stuff. When Haaland's off, when Haaland's injured, when Haaland's off, or when they want to play them together, they've got someone who's would be first choice for every other team in world football, probably anyway. You know, to come off the bench.
Well, he's not had a bad year, is he? He's won a World Cup. He's won a treble. He's won a Super Cup. He could win the Club World Cup in December. He's not had a bad year, is he?
Not had a bad. Well, he's only. Is he 20? How old is he? 21? 22?
20.
20. Wow.
Yeah, I think he's 20. Yeah.
Wowzers. Yeah, things are looking very predictably strong for City. They're excellent in all departments, and you know, I think it's fairly easy to say without being shameless that they're going to walk the title for me. You know?
Oh yeah, 100%. 1,000%.
Be interesting though. I think the Newcastle game against them in the Carabao Cup. It's a tough third round for them. Newcastle away. Newcastle will be right up for that, having got to the final last year. Newcastle don't quite look the same outfit though, do they? And we're going to talk about them right now. So Newcastle versus Brentford. Let me get my
absolute ball fest. Have you seen the highlights?
Yeah, I've seen the highlights. Yeah, I didn't see the full game.
Absolute ball fest, mate. That game. If I've ever seen a Premier League game that I didn't want to watch, it was that. I watched the highlights on Match of the Day. I think Newcastle. I'm going to say this, but I think Newcastle are in bother.
They don't look anything like the same team, mate, do they? They look. Last year they were almost impenetrable at the back, and this year I know obviously they didn't concede on the weekend. Yeah. They just look vulnerable at the back, and their front boys aren't ticking. The players that were like outstanding candidates last year haven't started well. Something just doesn't feel right. Do you think maybe it's that kind of second season syndrome? Expectations are higher because of what they did last year, and you know the Newcastle fans maybe reset their expectations. The board maybe want more. The pressure, therefore, on Eddie Howe is a little bit more, and the players as well. Do you think it's some of the new players that have come in that just haven't adjusted yet? Where do you see their struggles?
Well, where I see the struggle is they're not scoring any goals. They've scored 8, conceded 7, albeit they've played Liverpool, City, Villa, Brentford. They've had a tough start.
Brighton, yeah,
they've probably had the toughest start of any Premier League team.
Yeah,
they have been in the doghouse every week, haven't they? Dispatched the Villa, and everyone thought Newcastle was serious. Following week, awful, absolutely awful. I think there's pressure on Eddie Howe, and he's in my shameless top 3 managers to be sacked before Christmas. I think it'll be
really
Eddie Howe, Pochettino, or Eric 10 games. Honestly, mate, have you their Champions League group? They've got Dortmund, Milan, and PSG.
Yeah, they're going to struggle.
I think they'll be lucky to get 3rd, which will be the Europa League, which they could probably do well in. But I don't know, mate. They didn't have that great of a window, in my opinion. For what their, kind of motivation is to win the league, they brought in Tonali, who's a fantastic bit of business. But they brought in Harvey Barnes. And I'm like, okay, Harvey Barnes is probably their best wide man now. But where else? Where else have we? I still think they need another midfielder who can create. You know, they spent a lot of money on.
I don't know why they got rid of Saint Maximin. I'm sure there was something to do with the
for my Saudi team.
Well, I know, yes, and I know that they overpaid, right? That like the same owners, the PIF same who own the same, obviously own half of Saudi Arabia's football clubs, and
He'll
obviously
probably be back at Newcastle in a couple
yeah,
of
I'm
years.
sure. I'm
That
sure
goal,
there's some shenanigans going on there with all that, but whatever. Speculative until it's proven. But yeah, like selling him. Did he want to leave, or was it?
I think he was told that Harvey Barnes was coming in, and obviously Harvey Barnes' output is a lot better than Saint-Maximin's. By the way,
Yeah.
his goal for Al Ali Saudi FC was an absolute joke. We're talking. I sent it to you after this game. He absolutely Stankovic that. I mean, the keeper had more chance getting a hand on the sun. It was absolutely outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. Honestly, wait. I'll send you that after that. But I think they told him that Harvey Barnes was coming in, and he's obviously thought, well, hang on, I can go and get 3-4 times the wages here. I think he's on 500 grand a week now.
Right. Okay. Well, that's it then, isn't it? Money. Yeah.
Money
talks. But I just feel like I know that he might have had different. His output's not great, but he's one of those players that in a moment can lift. Maybe if the output isn't even there, just the way that something he can do can lift the crowd, and Newcastle feed off of the energy of the crowd, and him doing one of his.
That's only like 3 or 4 times a season he does that. He'll have 2 man of the match performances every season, whereas Harvey Barnes will get them probably 10, 12 Premier League goals. Now, do you weigh up, do the goals contribute more points, or does that one moment in a really, really big game outweigh everything? Like, for instance, give an example, right? If Richarlison doesn't do nothing for a few games, it will be fine because he got the winner. He was involved in getting the winner and the assist against Sheffield United. So it's kind of giving him a little bit of room to breathe. It's giving him time.
Yeah, I just think there's also, we play some of those kind of flair players. I think that there's intangible value that's difficult to measure in like a statistic or in something that, is qualifiable, but it's still very real. And I think how many times did Saint-Maximin draw 2 players towards him? 3, sometimes on the break or whatever, they always have someone over there which creates space for someone else. So sometimes just his presence on the pitch in those moments can invoke something that isn't, you're never going to see him being credited for, but it does create opportunities for elsewhere. I think that players like Joelinton, have probably benefited from his presence last year. Maybe it's just my opinion, and it's difficult for me to qualify either because I can't prove it. But I just think someone like him in a team has the ability on an intangible level to create value that isn't measurable. And I personally just think he was one of my favorite.
On his day, he's very good, but it's getting him on his day, mate. If you turn up, if I have one great performance at work every 6 months, I'm getting the sack. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. True.
If I have one great video in the next 6 months that does well, I'm not going to get any subs, am I? You got to be consistent.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. He's like one of those viral videos. I guess. Just last thing I'll say about Newcastle is that their defense looks a little bit shaky. Sven Botman hasn't started the season. Like last year, he was an absolute Rolls Royce. I hate using that phrase, but he was a bit of a Rolls Royce for Newcastle.
Now he's a Fiat.
Now he's a Fiat, right? Fabian Schär, was levels above his own. He smashed through his own ceiling last year, and now gravity's taking control again. Kieran Trippier is not playing anything like he did last year. So I think that there's just a lot of problems there, and I don't know what it is. Whether it's the pressure, whether it's just like you said, mate, the tough start to the season. They have had a really tough start to the season. Let's see how they do if they play against Nottingham Forest, Luton, and Palace, West Ham. Let's see how they get on with some of those teams that they should be beating, and we can judge them a bit better. On that game, I think I got 1 point because I got the right result, but it was a 1-0 victory for them. Callum Wilson with the penalty, but absolute bore fest. You got
that
zero.
Was my shameless prediction of the week, wasn't it? I went 2-0.
That was your shameless one, yeah. Yeah. No, I thought your shameless one was Everton Arsenal, wasn't it? Which we'll talk about in a second.
I took the shameless to a new level, didn't I?
Before we get there, let's talk about another club that's obviously managed by one of your teams that are on your short list for early sackings. Pochettino's Chelsea. I watched the game yesterday. Chelsea they have absolutely no ability. It's like they're terrified of taking a shot. It's almost like they're.
I think it's on Poch.
Go on.
He played Chilwell left wing not against Bournemouth in their game before. Chilwell at left wing. That's not us going to Vicario. Why don't you play in centre mid, mate? Why don't you go play in there and have a little kick about with the lads? he's my manager. I think him or Max Branning, aka Eric 10 Games, will get sacked first. They haven't had that much of a difficult start. Their only wins come against Luton, which are a promoted club, which at the time they only played one game because their first game at home was cancelled. They've lost at home to Forest. They lost away to West Ham, where they were absolutely toothless.
Yep.
You know, Adama Traore FC, all the chances, but can't put anything in the back of the net. First game of the season against Liverpool, they were probably the better team and should have got something.
Yeah.
Scraped it past Wimbledon in the Cup. They haven't scored in their last 2 Premier League games, losing to Forest. Like, if I said to you, Chelsea have got Luton, Forest, West Ham, Bournemouth and Liverpool, you'd say 4 wins and a draw in their first 5, wouldn't you?
12 points, something like that,
yeah. And they're currently sitting in the Premier League. I mean, it's a battle for mid-table between Chelsea and United. And I'm absolutely shamelessly all here for it.
They've only... Same here. They've absolutely... I think this is their worst start to the Premier League campaign ever, apart from one season 8 years ago. I was watching the game yesterday, and it came across to me, and I don't know if anyone who's Chelsea fans watching this, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but I see that boy Enzo. He throws his toys out of the pram. He's always huffing and puffing and waving his arms and slamming his thighs with his hands. He looks like he's someone who's a grumpy player who expects everyone to, to find him the ball or whatever. I also feel like slightly further up the pitch, you've got players who don't want to take command of situation. When you see the fella that they signed from Manchester City driving with the ball, I know he's a young guy.
Colwill, not Colwill.
Cole Palmer, yeah. Young player, but look, he's good enough to be able to take the decision to have a crack, and instead he feeds the ball to Sterling. It's a loose ball. It ends up finding its way back in. Sterling does very well, and then they kind of get some pot shots on goals from it. But I just feel like, I think they had nearly two goals worth of XG. But to me, apart from a couple of scrappy little kind of inside the box opportunities, it didn't really ever feel like that they were that in control.
Are they?
Yeah, and I just, if I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm starting to get worried about, why it's not it's not figuring itself out.
Bearing in mind, you've done £1 billion in 3 windows.
Yeah,
and you can't score against Bournemouth or Forest.
Yeah, or Forest. Yeah,
you got to be pulling your hair out.
Bournemouth's credit, they tucked themselves in, defended like beavers, throwing themselves in front of the ball.
It shows the difference, doesn't it? We went down there, scored 2, and had a comfortable performance. Chelsea went down there. At the moment, they can't score in a brothel. They can't hit a barn door. And I think Pochettino, if he doesn't start pulling results out, there's no Europe now. There's no Europe for them. They've got 1 game a week, just like we have. Right? And they are...
The only excuse is not enough time to gel the players, but that same excuse hasn't been needed. Tottenham have got half of a new team this year, right? We've got a new goalkeeper. We've got a new left back. We've got a new centre back. We've got Maddison. We've got Bissouma, who you could almost consider new because he's barely played, right?
Van der Ven as well.
Van der Ven, yeah. Solomon. You've got new players everywhere, and they've hit the ground running.
We've got a manager who can gel things. Pochettino, he didn't. When he comes to Tottenham, we didn't get off the mark immediately. It took us a couple of months to build. But Chelsea are a fan base where I don't think they've got the mentality to wait. Their club's been run on. We want instant success and money pumped in like there's no tomorrow. Like Mr. Burns in The Simpsons. If he wants it, he'll buy it.
Yeah.
I think they're in turmoil, mate. I think they're in big bother.
I think they're another team that's folding under the pressure of expectations because of so much money being spent. So, relatively little time to gel. But this is the second season now. And if Pochettino gets sacked, and I think he might do, because at some point you have to face the consequences of what you signed up for. He knew what he was signing up for when he got there. He was signing up to work for a team of people who are throwing money at it. And that sort of environment expects immediacy, even if it's unreasonable. And I feel like if they do sack him, he's got no one to blame but himself for walking into that situation. But also, I think that Chelsea would be absolutely insane to do so, because then they're starting again with another rebuild and another manager. We're doing it again. They are doing it again.
Yeah, I think if they've got to stick with him and ride the storm, just ride the storm. Um,
100%, mate. Yeah, we'll see what happens though. But like you say, mate, I'm here for it as well. And look, we're not going to be able to talk about Nottingham Forest and Burnley because we're recording this at on Monday morning for you guys. So the last game that we can talk about is Everton Arsenal, the game that was on yesterday.
yeah.
You went shameless with it, mate. You said that Everton were going to nick a 2-1 victory, but there was a basis for why you said it. You said Arsenal hadn't won there since 2000.
Yeah, I was kind of using the past. I'll tell you what though, Arsenal haven't looked amazing in any of their games. But what they are doing is grinding out results.
Yeah.
Everton away is a tough game, and Arteta got it spot on in my opinion. I don't know if you saw how long they took with their corners. They were frustrating the crowd. 27 seconds to take one corner.
It's mad.
But they scored off that corner. Martinelli, I guess, it's a bit awful for them losing Martinelli for potentially 6 weeks, which will be all through most of their Champions League group games. But at the same time, when one door closes, another door opens, and Trossard now comes in. He took his goal.
Yeah, but where do they go? Where do they go if Trossard is a classy player, but where do they go if after 70 minutes they're exhausted? Who's the next cab off the rank after Trossard?
What I don't get is why is Gabriel Jesus not starting? Why is Eddie Nketiah starting for them? He can't get a barn door, that geezer. I reckon if I polished up the old Air Forces. I reckon I could score a goal the amount of chances they create. They have more chances than my ex-missus, mate.
I don't dislike the guy as much as a lot of people. I think he's
He's got this shameless, disgusting little. Oh, he was the under-21s top goal scorer for England. Who cares? Who cares, mate? Are you doing it in an Arsenal shirt week in, week out? No, you're not. So bring in Gabriel Jesus.
He stepped up last year, though, didn't he? He did step up when Jesus went out injured around Christmas time.
Yeah, he did, but he scored 3 goals in the Cup and 4 in the league. So, okay, yeah, he did. But not only that, Saka looks far, far from it. I reckon his Achilles injury is a lot more serious, and I think he's playing through it. Now, if they lose Martinelli and Saka, all of the goal output then, for me, the man who has got to really step up for them now is going to be Odegaard.
But Odegaard to me looks like, I hate saying it because he's an Arsenal player, but he does look, if not already, then will be world class. I think
give it another, see how he gets on in the Champions League.
Yeah. But he looks like a kid, a young player whose trajectory is incredibly steep. I think he's just oozes class on the ball. He knows what he's going to do.
Of De Bruyne and Maddison in his game.
Yeah.
He can whip the cross like De Bruyne. He shoots like Maddison. But what those two don't have that he does is he is absolutely brilliant on the ball. Absolutely brilliant. The way he can manipulate around players, do cheeky nutmegs.
His weight of pass is fantastic. He doesn't generally wait when he has a shot. He doesn't usually waste those chances. I think he's class. You know what? It's going to be interesting this week when we're doing various Tottenham Arsenal content on our channels. I'm sure you'll be doing the same. You'll be asking Arsenal fans and Tottenham fans alike for the combined 11. Be interesting right now whether the swing goes towards Odegaard or Maddison in that 10 slot.
I'd probably shamelessly have both of them.
That's Eric 10 game style. That is, mate. Just fit both.
Well, it depends. I reckon there's some teams. Like if you're playing Luton, you can play them both, can't you?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
In terms of their game, though, did you see Trossard's goal?
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. First time shot. And look, Arsenal, like you say, they're not. I don't think they've got out of second gear this season. I don't think they've really put on a commanding performance, but they're stuck with us on 13 points. Alongside, I think Brighton are on 12. We'll look at the table before we wrap up here, but look, Arsenal to me, it's worrying when they're playing. They're playing all right, and they're still managing.
The difficulty will be though, Sean, is how are they going to rotate between champions? I know they've got a relatively easy group in the Champions League. They've got PSV, Sevilla, and someone else. It's basically like a Europa League group for them.
Yeah.
How are they going to rotate? They've got PSV on Wednesday and they've got us on Sunday. So we've got 8 days between the games, Saturday and Sunday. Arsenal have got to play on the Sunday. Wednesday, and then the Sunday.
Yep.
By the way, why is an North London derby a 2 p.m. kickoff? That's a disgrace on its own.
It's because of the crowd trouble that might happen.
It's the main event is Sheffield United at home to Newcastle. Who cares about that?
Right, but they usually put these that's what the reason why they do like Rangers Celtic at like 7:30 in the morning or whatever, because they don't want people to be
9 o'clock at night on a Monday evening or something.
Yeah. Try and take away as much of the drinking hours as possible. It's going to be a fascinating game, but we got all week to talk about that one. Just quickly on Everton, mate. You know, I've got one of my best mates in this world is an Everton fan. I was talking to him throughout the game yesterday. Right, I was looking at the Everton side. Their team. I was talking to him on. Let me see what I've got here. I was like, your lad Beto, he's an absolute unit, right? But Everton have got a lot of strong physical players. Decore, he's a monster. Onana is a monster. Tarkowski's an absolute monster. Braithwaite, or Branthwaite, whatever his name is. Dominic Calvert-Lewin. They've got such physical presence that they're always going to be able to, if they can figure it out, because let's be honest, it's a miserable experience to watch them play football at the moment. And Everton fans must be like, you know, hating themselves. When they got the new owners coming in, 777 partners. I'll be doing a video on this channel about that once I've got the chance to. But they're going to be interesting whether they come in and what they kind of inject into the club. Are they going to go
to a new stadium as well, aren't they?
Got the new stadium coming, so like, you know, that'll be a couple of years away, I think. But they've got I don't know. I mean, to me, if you're an Everton fan right now, what are you looking at their season and thinking? Is it just focus on survival?
Mate, you're in bother. I think if they don't get a goal scorer, they're going down. I think at this moment, I know it's very early on, but shamelessly, I think it's going to be Luton, Sheffield United, and Everton.
Yeah.
I think Everton are in serious bother. Like, unless
I didn't realise that they'd struggle quite as much as they have. They can't seem to score. They're playing absolute turgid football.
They scored 2 goals.
Yeah.
Romero on his own has scored 2.
Yeah, and their manager bounce that got them through against Arsenal last year. That whole team seems to have been a damp squib. It's completely kind of he can't seem to motivate these boys to get together. I mean, look, like I said yesterday, there were so many times when they broke the ball down. They broke Arsenal down pretty well, and they had a few chances to break, but then they just got let down by poor touches or heavy passes. And I do worry for Everton, you know, and it'd be a shame to lose them. But I think you're going to struggle to find probably, you know, is there 3 worse teams than Everton right now?
No,
probably not, right?
I think Burnley will get into gear and they'll start picking up points here or there. Sheffield United, don't know if they've got the firepower. Everton, for me, mate, they are awful. They are the worst team in the league to watch. Absolutely awful. I mean, Burnley, for the first 10, 15 minutes, gave us a bit of a game, and then we kind of grew into it and took over. Sheffield United give us a game. I think if we play Everton tomorrow, I mean, could be a cricket score. They are absolutely toothless.
Yeah.
Scored 2, conceded 9, -7 goal difference already.
Yeah,
they nearly conceded 2 goals a game.
I think the only thing they can do is in January, if these 777 partners come in, I haven't really examined it yet, so I don't really know what their intentions are. But they do have a history of a bit getting involved with different football clubs, and a variety of different results have happened when they've come into clubs. But I don't know whether or not Everton's FFP issues are resolved because of this takeover. I'm going to look into it and do a video on it, but they do need some support from their new owners in January. They need to get some players in, and hopefully they can, you know, find a way to get themselves out of trouble. But right now, it looks pretty bleak for them. It also looks very bleak for Henry, as you see, guys, that over the course of the first week, it doesn't matter what happens tonight because of the rules of the game. If Nottingham Forest win 2-0 and Awoniyi scores both, that would give Henry a maximum of 5 points, but it would also give me 3 points, which means I would still take the points. I would still do it. I'd still take the victory on the first week. Listen, mate, because you're new to the game, I'm not going to make you do and also I know where you are right now. You're in your in-laws' house, so I don't want you to be shaving your eyebrows or anything.
If I get anything on the floor, I may lose my eyebrow anyway. So
we are going to save up these forfeits. We're going to save up these forfeits so when you get back to London, okay, mate? We're going to figure out what to do over the week.
I'm interested to see what the forfeit is. I want to add a new shameless rule into our Aston Villa, Bournemouth, like the predictions like that. You cannot, for the entire season, do a prediction but you can't choose the top 6 side. So
Makes
you know
sense.
how I said Bournemouth will either get a win or a draw, right? So you can't choose Tottenham in games, Arsenal, United, City, Liverpool, or Chelsea. So it's going to make it harder.
Okay. And it'll also make it easy. It'll quicken the rounds up because obviously we'll lose.
And you can't choose the same team more than 2 weeks in a row.
You can't choose the same team twice ever, right? So
you can,
until it restarts.
Yeah, until it restarts. So I can't choose Bournemouth next week. You can't choose Villa.
And you also can't choose any of the traditional top 6, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine, fair enough. Okay, and that the punishment for LMS losses, whoever loses that has a more significant punishment. Maybe what we'll do is, because Henry can't do it this week, maybe we'll do maybe we'll do monthly roundup. So we'll figure out the last weekend of the last fixtures for September, and we'll do one monthly forfeit, and we're going to add these points up as we go. So I'm currently 11-8 up in the point scoring. No surprise there. I know what I'm doing.
Shameless.
You watch these numbers just grow. The gap's going to separate, guys. I think that's about it. Obviously, we have got the Nottingham Forest game tonight. What prediction did you have for it? Just out of curiosity.
2-0. 2-0 at the City ground. I think they'll win. Yeah, I think Forest will pick up probably 90% of their points at home. I think we beat them last year 2-0 at home, didn't we? But they beat United, they beat Arsenal, they beat Chelsea last year. And you've got to remember, they're off the back of a 1-0 win against Chelsea. So their towers are going to be right up for it, you know?
I like Nottingham Forest. I think they're going to be absolutely fine this year. I think they'll maybe finish 10th. You know, they'll finish somewhere around.
Well, he likes putting money in. He goes, well, if we're, you know, I think they've already changed since they've been in the Premier League. I think they've had 47 new players, which is absolutely mad. But yeah, I think they'll do well. I think they'll finish probably 13th, 14th, something like that.
Yeah, mid-table scrap, but it's nice. Good for them. It's good for them to get some security. All right, guys, that's it. It's 52 minutes. I mean, it's longer than we normally would do. What we're going to do at some point in the future, maybe a little while down the road, but we'll be doing some of these things more on live streams. We'll be talking about lots of different football clubs and the plight of whatever's going on with them, with other guests as well coming up. So if you have enjoyed it, please hit the like button for us. Make sure you hit the subscribe as well on the Shameless Football and also Henry Wright and Spurs Talk Show. You can find those links in the description below. Henry, mate, I wish you a wonderful rest of your... when are you back? When are you back in the UK?
Saturday morning. So, yeah, we've got a big North London derby week build up. Champions League's on, Conference League's on, Europa League's on. So hopefully Bayern Munich run riot over Man United, PSV get a masterclass, Villa go crashing out, Brighton go crash. I just hope every English team loses, to be honest with you, mate, shamelessly.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to do a watch long. If we can do a watch long, I'm not even sure we've got live streams set up for these yet. But I do think that PSV, by the way, have got a far better team than people make out. I know they lost one or two of their players at the end of the transfer window.
They've got Xavi Simons, haven't they?
They've got a wonderful team. They've got great left back. They've got some. I know they lost Sangare to Nottingham Forest, didn't they? But they've got two or three really
academy as well. They're always chopping out players. You know, the Dutch sides, Feyenoord, Ajax. You know,
yeah. Teze, I think the guy's name is the left back. Anyway, we will leave it there, and we will see you on the next one, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, shameless. Oh, we have to figure out whatever.
Up the shameless.
Up the shameless. There you go.